Hello, lovely listeners. I'm Julia, who will help you relax and fall asleep tonight. What time is it for you right now? And what's your go-to way to unwind? Write it in the comments. In a kingdom of ancient lore where myths and reality intertwined like vines on a crumbling stone wall, the people still recalled the legend of the golden apple tree that graced the royal garden. Every year, as the seasons turned and the cold breath of winter melted into the gentle warmth of spring, the king's beloved apple tree would remain as resplendent as ever, a living symbol of prosperity and continuity. Yet amid the blossoms and ripening fruit lay a peculiar mystery. For one golden apple, crafted of shimmering sunlit metal and more precious than any coin, would vanish from the tree each night, leaving only a small glimmer of magic in its wake. The king, regal and determined, had commanded that none should dare challenge this curious theft. However, the responsibility of watching over the mysterious tree was entrusted to the gardener's 3 sons, men of humble origin but with hearts that beat with a mix of loyalty and ambition. The eldest 2, burdened with weariness and a fondness for comfort, soon succumbed to slumber in the silent starlit gardens. Only the youngest son remained vigilant. With eyes bright as the spring dew and spirit as restless as a sparrow in flight, he kept watch through the dark hours. It was on one such moonlit night that the youngest son witnessed an astonishing sight. A radiant bird of dazzling gold, floating silently among the fragrant apple boughs. The bird seemed less a creature of flesh and more a fluttering embodiment of mystery and wonder, its wings leaving trails of luminescence and its eyes glinting like polished jewels. In a surge of impulsive hope and determination, the boy raised his bow and fired an arrow. The projectile found no mark upon the elusive creature, but managed to brush against its plumed breast, plucking a single gleaming feather free. That feather, dropping to the dew-damped grass, was more precious than he could ever have imagined. When morning broke, the king discovered not only the missing apple, but also the shimmering feather lying at the base of the tree. Its brilliance enchanted him, and his greed mingled with awe as he beheld the evidence of a majesty beyond the ordinary. "This glowing plume," he murmured, "is a sign of something far greater, a promise of fortune and magic. I must have that bird, for it is the key to everlasting splendor." With this proclamation echoing through the corridors of the castle, the king decreed that the capture of the golden bird was to be accomplished at any cost. Intent upon achieving the impossible, the king summoned the gardener's 3 sons. In turn, he offered each the honor and the dangerous quest of seizing the elusive creature. The eldest and the middle son accepted with little more than a grunt of assent, their minds clouded by daydreams of wealth and comfort. But it was the youngest, who had first seen the marvel in the garden, and who had sustained the long vigil in the cold night air, whose heart beat for adventure and honor. His soul burned with an inner light as he set out at dawn, armed with his meager bow and a determination that outshone all obstacles. Not long into his journey, while wandering through a tangled wood glen and along a winding country lane, the youngest son encountered an unusual sight. In a clearing beneath a gnarled oak, a fox with eyes as bright and cunning as any trickster in the legends approached him. To his amazement, the fox spoke in a clear and even tone. "Young traveler," said the fox, "I see that you pursue your destiny with more than mere chance. Will you listen to my counsel, for I may yet save you from the snares that lie ahead?" The prince, startled by the talking creature's eloquence and wisdom, inclined his head in deference. "Speak, wise fox," he pleaded, "for I have no desire to see my quest undone by my own folly." The fox continued, "Know this, on your journey you shall find many dwelling places, inns of varied comfort and appearance. Do not be swayed by a rich and pleasant inn that dazzles the eye. Instead, choose an old and shabby one, for riches can lull a man into forgetfulness and make him stray from his duty. The path to capturing the golden bird is lined with tricks and temptations, and one must be ever vigilant against signals that may betray your true purpose." With that cryptic advice installed in his heart, the young son pressed on, vowing to mind the fox's words. Before long, the son reached the outskirts of a bustling town. There, he found an inviting inn painted with bright hues and adorned with blooming flower boxes, where laughter and music flowed alongside the alluring scent of roasted meats and fine ale. His older brothers had once boasted of such comforts, and the temptation was potent. Yet he recalled the fox's counsel: steer clear of temptations that might lead you off course. With a deep sigh of inner conflict, he wandered farther, finding instead a dilapidated hostel hidden in a shadowed alley. Its wooden sign creaked in the wind, and its walls were scarred by time, but within it resided the promise of safety and the space to regain focus on his singular mission. He checked in quietly, settling into a sparse room with little more than a narrow bed and a straw mat, determined to remain wakeful until the next stage of his quest. That very night, as a silver moon hovered high and the stars whispered secrets to the night, the young son set out once more. Guided by a map drawn by moonlight, and armed with the memory of his earlier vigil, he arrived at the castle where the golden bird was said to dwell. The fortress loomed tall and formidable, its stones echoing centuries of mystery and might. Within its heart, the golden bird resided in an ornate gilded cage, a cage whose very shine signaled a danger unknown to those unwise enough to claim it. The cunning fox's earlier advice echoed in his memory. Instead of attempting to ensnare the bird in that golden prison, you must capture it in a simple wooden cage, one that holds no signal of grandeur. Regrettably, overcome by the lure of gold and the weight of ambition, the young son ignored the sage counsel. With trembling hands and a swift motion fueled by both hope and hubris, he lunged with a trap meant to mirror the glittering cage. In an instant, the raucous clamor of clanging metal and startled cries awakened the entire castle. The golden bird, agitated and alarmed, soared high into the air, leaving the son entangled in his own miscalculation. Captured by the castle's guards, he was brought before the lord of the fortress, a stern ruler with eyes as cold as winter frost. The lord, though fierce in countenance, was not without a sense of honor. "Young man," he pronounced in a voice that resonated through the great hall, "your impulsive act has disturbed the peace of my castle. Yet perhaps fate has woven your destiny with threads of potential. I shall grant you a chance to redeem your errant quest, but only if you complete a task even more daunting than your last. Retrieve for me the golden horse, a creature of legend said to weave through the mists of dawn and shadow with an ethereal grace befitting its name." With no other choice than to comply, the disappointed but undaunted youth accepted this new challenge. Thus began the next chapter of his tumultuous journey. Laden with the weight of the castle's decree, he departed into lands where the horizon melted into wild, boundless landscapes of green and gold. It was during this arduous sojourn that the fox reappeared, once more stepping out from the shadows to offer guidance. "Attend carefully, noble seeker," the fox urged, its voice imbued with both warning and hope. "For in your quest for the golden horse, a critical error awaits you, not in your own heart, but in the temptations clothed in brilliance. When you prepare to claim the horse, do not adorn it with a golden saddle. Instead, secure for it a dark gray leather saddle, modest and unassuming. The golden saddle is a signal, a lure to unwanted attention that may well doom your endeavor." With these words echoing in his mind, the son embarked on the mission to capture the magnificent creature. The lands he traversed were vast and strange, filled with whispering winds and rustling reeds that seemed to murmur hints of ancient secrets. Eventually, at the edge of an enchanted valley, bordered by silver streams and delicate wildflowers, he found the golden horse grazing upon a sunlit meadow. Its mane flowed like spun gold, and its eyes shone with otherworldly wisdom. With great care and the memory of the fox's warning, the young man approached. However, as fate would have it, seduced by the allure of its luminous beauty, he faltered. Against the wise counsel that rang in his ears, he equipped the majestic animal with a saddle fashioned entirely of gold. No sooner had the saddle been fixed than the horse's noble spirit stirred, and its cry stirred alarms that echoed through the enchanted lands. In moments, a band of royal guards from a nearby rival castle descended upon him, seizing him as the inadvertent signal of his mistake. This rival castle was no less formidable than the previous, its turrets and battlements asserting power and order. The king, a pious yet shrewd man, saw in the young man not merely a trespasser, but a potential pawn to be exploited further in the intricate game of royal politics. "Young adventurer," proclaimed the new king with an air of regality entwined with scorn, "if you desire freedom and redemption, you must now undertake one last task, a quest that will test the very depths of your resolve. You are to journey to the fabled golden castle and retrieve for me the princess, heir to that realm and a beacon of light amid darkened times." With no alternative and his spirit already frayed by successive trials, the son reluctantly accepted the challenge that seemed as daunting as the heavens themselves. On the long journey to the golden castle, the mysterious warnings of the fox continued to resonate in the recesses of his memory. the fox reappeared once again at a crossroads veiled by twilight. "Listen well," it implored in tones both soft and insistent, "for your next act is fraught with peril and consequence. When you come upon the golden castle with its gleaming spires and shimmering courtyards, ensure that the princess does not bid farewell to her dear parents. For a parting word, a final, loving goodbye will bind you to obligations that may shackle your spirit and imperil your quest." Alas, the tides of fate and the sun's own wavering resolve proved too mighty. When he finally arrived at the golden castle and met the princess, a gentle, kind-hearted young woman with eyes that mirrored the twilight sky, he found that courtesy and compassion overtook him. In a moment of tender farewell, the princess was allowed to bid goodbye to her parents. This final act of disobedience sealed the young man's tragic fate anew. The princess's father, enraged by what he deemed a grave insult, decreed that the price of the adventurer's transgression would be severe indeed. "For your insolence," the Lord boomed, "you must remove for me a hill, a venerable mound that has stood for countless centuries as recompense for the disturbance you have caused. And you shall do so in 8 days, or not at all." Faced with an impossible labor, the young adventurer despaired, for how could one erase a hill that had borne witness to the passage of time itself? Yet once more, the enigmatic fox, ever the guardian of destiny, emerged to aid him. "Do not lose heart," said the fox gently. "Watch and learn." With a flick of its silver tail and a murmur of arcane words, the fox set about to work. The very earth trembled as if in response to ancient incantations. In less than a day, a hill that had been immovable for centuries was reduced to dust and memory, vanishing as though it had never been. Astonished, the young adventurer gathered forth the golden bird, the golden horse, and the gentle princess, each prize a testament to both his daring and the echoes of fate. Before he could fully rejoice, however, the fox's voice rose once again from the shadowed edge of the path. "Now, dear seeker," the fox intoned solemnly, "you have earned much through your trials. Yet there remains one final command that will bind together all that you have claimed on this treacherous journey. Listen well. You must keep all these treasures with steadfast care, a promise that all who see them will know you stand as the true champion of your destiny. But heed this warning. In order to secure the value of what you have won, you must, at my request, shoot me and cut off my head. Do not disobey, for the consequences may darken the radiance of your triumph. I warn you also, forsake the temptation to purchase gallows flesh or to sit on the bloody edge of rivers, for such paths lead only to sorrow and regret. The young man listened, trembling at the weight of these enigmatic instructions. Yet within him resided a resolve to follow through with every command, at least for a time. In the days that followed, while he sought refuge in the modest company of his newfound treasures, the young adventurer discovered that fate had not been kind only to him. His older brothers, who had long since succumbed to a life of debauchery and sin amid riches and revelry, had been condemned for their misdeeds. Word arrived that they were to be sent to the gallows, an ignoble punishment for their disregard of duty and honor. With a heavy heart and a sense of unfulfilled familial camaraderie, the youngest son resolved to salvage whatever remnant of kinship might remain. He hastened to gather sufficient funds to redeem their liberty, even as whispers of their misadventures reached him in sorrowful tones. Yet as he trudged wearily along the riverbank to secure his brother's freedom, fate dealt him yet another blow. His envious siblings, caught in the grip of avarice and resentful of his humble success, conspired against him. With a treacherous shove at the river's edge, they cast him into its turbulent current. In that moment, they seized the golden bird, the splendid horse, and even the gentle princess for themselves, parading the prizes before their father as tokens of their own ill-gotten gain. The prince, battered by betrayal and despair, sank into darkness as the water swallowed him. Amidst the swirling currents and the implacable flow of the river, he gazed upwards into a sky void of hope. But just when it seemed that all was lost, the familiar, reassuring voice of the mysterious fox floated to his ears once more. Swift as the night wind, the fox appeared to rescue him from the deadly embrace of the river. With quiet determination and careful guidance, the fox led him safely away from harm's edge, nursing the wounded heart of the young adventurer back from the brink of oblivion. Time passed, and the son, now cloaked in the tattered garb of a beggar, returned to his father's castle. Though his appearance was meager, his spirit burned with memories of trials and secret victories. As he wandered the palace corridors in anonymity, an astonishing transformation unfolded. The golden bird, the magnificent horse, and even the beloved princess, when they beheld him, recognized in his eyes the spark of true valor, the spark they had witnessed on that fateful night beneath the shimmering apple tree. Their demeanor shifted from cold indifference to exuberant joy, and the palace, long shrouded in sorrow over the betrayal of kin, brimmed with a newfound cheer. The older brothers, their hearts steeped in jealousy and regret, suffered the consequences of their misdeeds in ways both terrible and just. In the end, honor triumphed over treachery, and the gentle princess, having seen the magnanimity of the true champion, agreed to join her life with his in a union both noble and serene. Before long, peace and understanding reigned in the kingdom. The young adventurer, now acknowledged by all as the rightful hero and guardian of the royal treasures, sought one final act to complete the circle of his tumultuous journey. At the quiet insistence of the ever-mysterious fox, he ascended to a secluded glen beneath a silver-veiled sky. There, amidst hushed winds and whispering pines, the fox made a solemn request. "I ask you, brave soul, to sever my head and cut off my feet." Shocked by this last command, yet recalling the fox's earlier warnings about forsaking the dark temptations of gallows flesh and the river's edge, the prince hesitated. But after a moment of fierce inner deliberation and a heartfelt recognition of all that had been granted on his arduous path, he understood that such an act was necessary to dispel the lingering enchantment of his journey. With a mixture of sorrow and resolve, he obeyed the fox's request. In a final flash of motion under the dim twilight, the deed was done, and as the silence deepened, the miraculous revelation was made, a revelation that transformed sorrow into wondrous joy. For the fox, as its head and feet lay severed upon the soft earth, was revealed to be not the cunning creature of legend, but a man in enchanted guise. He was none other than the long-lost brother of the princess, a soul who had been ensnared by a vicious witch's curse many years before. His restoration heralded the breaking of old spells and the renaissance of ancient bonds. In the aftermath of these remarkable events, the kingdom found itself entranced by the lessons of humility, faith, and unyielding resolve. The golden bird, gleaming still with its enigmatic radiance, soared once again above the castle walls, a living reminder of destiny's unpredictable course. The golden horse pranced proudly in the royal stables, its gentle eyes reflective of 1,000 untold stories. And the princess, radiant in both beauty and spirit, walked hand in hand with the hero who had borne the weight of destiny upon his shoulders. Together they strove to mend the broken bonds of kin and to restore honor where pride had once reigned supreme. In the quiet hours that followed, as dusk surrendered to a sky sprinkled with twinkling stars, the hero would sit by the edge of a calm river and reflect on the winding path fate had carved for him. Memories of lost chances, of wise words whispered by a mysterious fox, and of momentary failures mingled with the victories won by perseverance. Throughout the kingdom, minstrels composed songs of his journey, tales that spoke of a humble heart raised by hardships into greatness. And every night, as the golden apple tree in the king's garden shimmered in the moonlight, stories of the audacious quest, of betrayal, redemption, love, and sacrifice were passed down from one generation to the next, ensuring that the lessons of the past lit the path for the future. Thus, in that age-old land where myth and miracle dwelled side by side, the bonds of honor, loyalty, and truth were reaffirmed by the journey of one brave young man. His memory lived on in every whispered legend and every hopeful prayer, a testament to the enduring power of virtue over vice and of wisdom over folly. And as the night deepened with a silken calm, the newly united family and their kingdom found peace in the quiet promise of tomorrow, a promise as radiant as the golden bird soaring freely among the twilight skies. Sweet dreams, good night.